All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, I've had a lot of cats come onto my channel and ask me how great exactly do I think Lamar Jackson is. And I'll state this. In my view, Lamar Jackson is the next NFL evolutionary step from the Randall Cunningham archetype. For those of you who do not remember Randall Cunningham, and many cats out here do not understand how impactful Randall Cunningham was and how influential he was in helping NFL coaches and general managers, scouts, etc., and considering how great a black quarterback who was mobile could be out there on the football field. Randall Cunningham is the reason why a player like a Steve McNair got the serious appraisal that he received in the late 1990s. Randall Cunningham is the reason why a player like a Michael Vick was taken number 1 in the draft, I believe in the year 2001. So Randall Cunningham was a player who won not 1, but 2 regular season MVP awards and was the most dynamic weapon in the NFL from about 1988 to about 1990 or 91, where he got his knee tore up. He was eventually able to make a comeback with the Minnesota Vikings in the late 90s, where he won another regular season MVP and was the quarterback of the squad in Randy Moss's rookie season. But just to get back to the point about Mr. Lamar Jackson, I do think that he is the best weapon in the NFL today, but he's also the recipient of the best offensive system for his skill set, maybe of any quarterback that I've ever seen in recent memory. I'm not quite sure if I can conjure up another NFL team that had an offensive system that fit so well with a quarterback to help him disguise what he may not be able to do that well and highlight and exalt what he is able to do extremely well. Right now, we know that he's a dynamite passer in between the numbers, but the real test for Mr. Lamar Jackson is going to be, and many brothers out there might not like me saying this, but the real test for Lamar Jackson is going to be how impactful a quarterback is he going to be after he suffers his first major injury. And when I say that, I'm not trying to put the whammy on the brother. I'm not hoping that this happens to him. I hope that he can play 15 to 20 years in the NFL injury-free, but let's be for real. There's not a great player in the history of the NFL that did not suffer a major injury over the course of their career if they played 10 years or more. There are certain players like a Barry Sanders who was able to avoid anything major. For whatever reason, the way that Barry's body was put together, it stopped him from suffering any catastrophic injuries. But even players like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Tom Brady have all had season-ending injuries. And I do believe that with the way in which Lamar Jackson puts his body on the line, he is going to have something happen to him. Maybe it won't be a defender that hits him. It might just be that he plants a leg one day with the way that he runs and he tries to shake people. I hope that he never sticks his cleat in the ground wrong and messes his leg up. But just to get back to the point, that is going to be the real litmus test for Lamar Jackson. Should he suffer a setback like that, how impactful can he be on the football field? Can he learn to be a dominant player in a different style of offense? Can he be asked to throw outside the numbers with the proficiency that he throws inside the numbers? Because right now, he's making the NFL look like a series of Division II college football teams. He really is. He's just tearing up the league. And you can tell that the defensive coordinators all across the league have no idea what to do with their offense because they disguise him so well. You have a quarterback that has a very good arm, is extremely accurate, seems to always make the right throwing decision, and then if and when he gets outside of the pocket, he's faster than everyone on your defense. It's very obvious that the brother runs somewhere around maybe a high 4.2s, a low 4.3s, and his acceleration is unbelievable. So should he get injured like an RG3 did against the Baltimore Ravens back in 2012, how is he going to be able to adapt? That's the only question for Lamar Jackson right now, because he's the number 1 weapon in the NFL, and arguably, and I'm not quite sure if any one of us thought that we'd be saying this in light of how well Patrick Mahomes played last year, but Lamar Jackson is now arguably the best young quarterback in the NFL. So the sky is the limit for him. So they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Max Kellerman, is Lamar the best quarterback in the NFL?
Yes, he's the MVP this season. He's the best.
He's the best offensive threat in the NFL. I will still choose Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL. But if anything ever happens to Lamar and he can no longer run a 4.28 or 4.31 40-yard dash, all of a sudden now he's running a 4.57 or a 4.61 40-yard dash. He's now going to be asked to be able to do the same things that Deshaun Watson is asked to do, which is throw the football outside of the numbers, hit many of his outside threats? Can he do that? That is going to be the question. Because Randall Cunningham got hurt, all of these players get hurt eventually. Once again, I'm not wishing that on Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying what may come around the corner.
Really, you're asking a larger question, because I've sat here and said, Patrick Mahomes is in a class by himself, and now let's talk about everyone else, and I would have said Rodgers is after him. No. Patrick Mahomes, push comes to shove, I would still take him, probably, maybe. Lamar Jackson is on that level.
The thing about Patrick Mahomes is that he's so dynamic as a passer, he almost needs a dominant running back to force Andy Reid to make their offense more balanced. The offensive system that the Baltimore Ravens run is an almost perfect offensive system because it makes an already good defense even better, because the Baltimore Ravens offense has these 8-minute drives, 9 minutes, 13 plays, 85-yard drives where their defense could just chill out on the sidelines, and it makes them fresher and better when it is their time to take the field. And then their offense is the most proficient offense in the NFL. They're averaging almost 34 points a game, which is unbelievable.
Patrick Mahomes has a chance to be Michael Jordan in the NFL. Lamar, it's just an issue of can he keep this up? But here's the scary thing about Lamar. He keeps getting better. Look,
as a thrower, that's what's amazing.
Jackson and this Ravens team keeps getting better. He was, according to Warren Sharp,
not to cut Max Kellerman off again because I agree with most of what he's saying, but another test for Mr. Lamar Jackson is going to be if and when his offensive coordinator gets hired to be the head coach of another team. Will he still be able to come back the next season and be as proficient in that offense as he was with the current offensive coordinator?
Oh, you know, Sharp analytics. There you go. He was the #1 most accurate passer at age 21. Accurate passer. Forget about his speed for a second.
That's a nice stat, but how many all-time great quarterbacks were even starting at the age of 21? Joe Montana wasn't. I don't think that Dan Marino was 21 when he came into the NFL. If he was, I'm pretty sure that he was not starting. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that he did not start most of the games his rookie season at quarterback. We know that Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench for about 4 years. So, I mean, whenever these analysts start pulling these age-based stats, I know that they're trying to cook the books because they do the same thing with LeBron James.
Age 21 in the history of the NFL. Now he's age 22. How you like him now? How about this? Also from Warren Sharp. Here are the 4 top defensive minds in the NFL. Head coaches: Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Wade Phillips, Romeo Crennel. Gutted him. 13 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4-0 with a point differential over 100. I love Mahomes.
That's a good point, because Stephen A. likes resumes.
I love Mahomes. Mahomes is 24. Lamar Jackson's 22 years old.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has company.
First of all, emphasizing his age doesn't make him any younger. Number 2.
I think that Stephen A. Smith picked up on the same line of bullshit that I'm picking up on, that it's not that big a deal that he's doing these things at 21 and 22 because he's pretty much been the first quarterback who's been allowed to get this many reps as a starter in the history of the NFL. There are not that many quarterbacks who've been allowed to start at 21 years old. So, I mean, we could pretty much throw that stuff out. Most of the other data that Max Kellerman provided was accurate and it was on point. At the end of the day, we're seeing certain things from Lamar Jackson in combination with this offense that we may never have seen before. The cat is going to end the season with somewhere around 1,200 rushing yards. And he's going to end up throwing somewhere most likely around 37 or 38 touchdown passes and probably 5 or 6, maybe 7 interceptions.
More importantly, I'm really wondering, was that Sharp? Was Sharp Analytics?
Sharp
Analytics.
Analytics.
I mean, they need to give you an endorsement deal. They really
It's him. It's one dude.
He needs to pay
One-man
you.
band.
Okay, as much as you
My
mentioned
boy.
him. I'm being fair. He needs to pay you.
Whitlock also mentions this guy from Sharp Analytics.
Number three. I would have you remember, first of all, I do not believe that Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in football.
I would agree with you. I would state that that is still Patrick Mahomes. But I think that Lamar Jackson's system is more conducive to winning a championship or championships, at least as long as he stays healthy, than Patrick Mahomes' offensive system right now. They score so fast with the Kansas City Chiefs that their defense has no time to rest. So I'm not quite sure how bad the Kansas City Chiefs defense is, because they're getting very little time to rest. As soon as the Kansas City offense gets out there on the field, they're scoring in 4 or 5 plays. They stretch the field so much, and Mahomes literally sees everything going on the football field, and he can make every throw, especially outside the numbers. Then all of his receivers are running 4.340.
I believe he is a superstar in the making. I think he's electrifying and sensational, and I have come on board. He is the leading candidate for league MVP honors. Right.
You've come on board. What's the next news flash? Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles now see that Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP of this year in the NFL. Like, give me a break.
But you know how I am about the position.
But then again, Shaquille O'Neal says that Stevie Wonder can see. And I've heard that from a lot of people in the past, so who the hell knows?
What is your job description? And for me, no matter how electrifying you are, because I felt the same way when Michael Vick was making noise in the NFL, running that football, you ain't a running back. You are electrifying. You might win games and all that stuff. But when we talk about a quarterback, in terms of you being the best quarterback in football, that answer is hell no, he is not. Lamar Jackson is completing 66% of his passes. I get it. You know he's thrown 24 touchdown passes this season. Do you know 10 of them have come against Miami?
Now, of course, this was in the aftermath of Baltimore's dominating victory over the LA Rams. So at this point, he only has 24 touchdowns. Right now, as I'm recording this video, this is after his domination over the New York Jets. So he has 33 touchdown passes right now. But it does not really make a difference, because he's been playing this way for about the last 8 weeks now anyway. It's just been one long sequence of Lamar Jackson kicking people's ass out there on the football field.
And last night with the Rams. The Rams are the 15th ranked defense in the NFL. 4 came last week against Houston, which is the 17th ranked team defense in football. And, of course, the Miami Dolphins are the Miami Dolphins. That is 14 of his 24 touchdowns.
You know, Lamar Jackson looks like one of those boxers that before the bout, everyone is saying, I'm not quite sure if he can beat this other fighter, because they seem to be evenly matched. And then he gets into the ring with that other boxer, and he just completely outshines them. That's how Lamar has been playing against Tom Brady and against Deshaun Watson and a lot of these other quarterbacks all across the NFL. Like, it looks like it's going to be close going into the game, but he plays so much better than the opposition that you're forced to acknowledge that not only is this guy better than we thought, he might be the best. I mean, really, right now, there is a very good argument that you can make for Lamar Jackson, even over Pat Mahomes. I wouldn't right now, but I could see the people who would try to make that argument.
3 highly suspect defenses, as far as I'm concerned.
What you want him to do against those defenses?
What are you talking about?
I'm saying, like, he's throwing touchdowns against other teams, too.
Let me finish hearing this.
I want to keep hearing this.
Exactly. That's right. Don't interrupt. That's very rude. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. Here's the bottom line. All I'm saying is, when you look at him and his ability, he's sensational. He's young. He's getting better. He's ascended. Last time we saw him, we was in the playoffs against Los Angeles Chargers. We know how that went. I'm not taking anything away from his greatness as an athlete. I'm not taking anything in terms of his greatness, his ability to run the football, and the presence that he has right now. It cannot be denied. But when it comes to the quarterback position, it's just my thing. It's not the general thing, Marcus, because you play football. I'm going to defer to you. I'm just letting you know where I stand. When it comes to the quarterback position, I'm about how you can fling that football.
Well, here's the thing about that, Stephen A. Smith. Lamar Jackson can fling the football. It's not like he's Cordell Stewart or one of these guys who just wants to run every time he gets the football as a quarterback. He actually can attack the defense down the field. Now, he prefers to throw the football in between the numbers, but when he does try to attack on post routes or corner routes, he's able to hit the receiver in stride. He's very accurate down the field.
That's me. And the reason why it really elevated in the mind's eye is because when my man Skip and I used to do this show.
Uh-oh. That's the equivalent of being out on a date with your new woman and talking about your ex-girlfriend for the whole date. There's some rumors that supposedly Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith are thinking about linking back up. Just the fact that Stephen A. Smith would mention Skip Bayless's name on the air like that, to me, gives credence to some of those ruminations or those sentiments that are being put out there into the air.
You had a whole bunch of people out there looking at Tim Tebow. I was saying the Denver Broncos had the #1 rushing attack in football, just like the Ravens did now. Now, Tim Tebow on his best day can never run a football like this, brother. We understand that. But I was very big and fixated on the fact you don't get to run the football and be recognized as an elite quarterback because of your ability to run the football. I did it with Michael Vick. I did it with Tim Tebow. I'm doing the same thing with Lamar Jackson. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but the issue with that, once again, Stephen A., is that he's shown himself to be a very proficient passer.
Max, I'm sorry for cutting you off. You got to get out of the old guard. Okay. This is different. We've never been, this landscape that Lamar Jackson is living in, we've never been in it in the NFL.
I would agree with that because there's never been a quarterback with his skill set that has been a part of an offensive system that so perfectly fits his skill set. That's what we've never seen. We've actually seen quarterbacks who could do the same things that Lamar Jackson can do. Now, Randall Cunningham was not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he was just as shifty. Michael Vick was as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he was not as accurate a thrower as Lamar Jackson was. But keep in mind that those two quarterbacks played in a far more conventional offensive system and in a much more physical time period in the NFL. So Lamar's very fortunate right now.
There's no comparison. People keep saying Michael Vick and all of that. When they tried to make Michael Vick a pocket passer, we saw Michael Vick go down in his production.
Kaepernick too.
Absolutely.
He's also much bigger than Michael Vick.
Here's the thing, though. Like when you look at Lamar Jackson yesterday, 15 for 20, 165, people say, oh, what? It's because he doesn't have to. Stephen A., I'm telling you right now, he's had 3 damn near perfect QBRs this season. We saw him gut the New England Patriots. The problem that people have with Lamar Jackson is we have this old ideology that he doesn't play quarterback in a conventional way.
Well, let me say this very quickly. Every time a Lamar Jackson type of player comes into the NFL, everyone gets super duper hyped and believes that he's going to be the vanguard of a new style of offense to play in the league. And mobility is always going to be something that is valued. But to play in the style that he plays, that's never going to be something that he's going to be doing into year 6, 7, and 8. Right now, Russell Wilson, he was a football player that at one point used to love to run. He would turn to run almost as much as he would pass. If he faced any pressure, he would start to scramble and try to run for first downs. Now he prefers to just spin out and see if he can find someone down the field. Russell Wilson's like a modern-day Fran Tarkenton, since we're talking about evolutionary developments in quarterbacks. For those of you who don't know who Fran Tarkenton was, he was the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings all throughout the 70s, where they would get to the Super Bowl and lose. They would lose to Miami. They would lose to Oakland. They would lose to Pittsburgh. They were like the 70s version of the Buffalo Bills. That's who Russell Wilson really is today. What I worry about with Lamar Jackson, and once again, you're going to have a lot of people like this brother right here, Marcellus Wiley, a lot of other cats who are fanboys of super athletes trying to hype it up like he's going to be the new paradigm for the quarterback in the league. And no, he's not. The best type of quarterback is always going to be the Pat Mahomes, who can dice you out of the pocket and can run when he needs to. Now, for now, with the way in which they're able to utilize their offensive sets, the running backs, the 2 tight ends, the great offensive line is going to work for now. But the more that he breaks outside the pocket and tries to act as if he's Barry Sanders, the higher the chance or the possibility or even probability that he may suffer a serious injury. And once again, not even necessarily a defensive player running into one of his knees. He might just plant wrong and blow out a ligament or a tendon in his knees. I'm hoping that that is not the case. But that is when we're going to see exactly how much of a football player Lamar Jackson is when he can't just trust his legs anymore.
And I'm telling you, it's easy. Like, I don't fault anybody for feeling that way because everything football has taught us, 6'5", pocket passer, deliver the ball, distribute, not athletic, that's who wins Super Bowls. And there's a legit argument. I've sat on this show and said the same thing. But here's the thing about Lamar Jackson. Every once in a while, we get an MJ or we get a LeBron James.
You know, brothers, imagine what Steve McNair or Vince Young could have done had they landed on a team that had an offensive system that really was catered to them, as opposed to landing on a team with that idiot Jeff Fisher. Like, Steve McNair took a Jeff Fisher coach team to the Super Bowl. Imagine if he was coached by one of these offensive masterminds. We might be talking about Steve McNair as the greatest quarterback of all time.
We got to rethink how we think about
this. Here's my point to you. You have a point if I'm talking about this season, I've already conceded he's the leading candidate for league MVP honors because he's been that electrifying. The only reason I give you pushback is because my attitude is, what if you got yourself hurt running the football to the point where your running ability is compromised?
Agreed. Thank you, Stephen A. Smith.
Then you have to stop. You got to limit your mobility, and now you have to fling that football. What level of faith should I have in you in terms of your ability to fling the football?
Well, you know what, Steve? That's a fair point. But until and unless Lamar Jackson is compromised by an injury, we should at least give him the benefit of the doubt by saying that he has shown himself to be accurate throwing the football down the field, albeit in between the numbers. But we should have a certain level of faith that should he get injured, he'll still be accurate, and hopefully he'll be able to augment his ball distribution across the field outside the numbers as well. So I brought up the same point, but it's not like, once again, it's not like he's one of these quarterbacks like a Tim Tebow or a Cordell Stewart, someone who you want to be more of a runner than a passer. He's someone who has shown thus far that his throwing ability is right up there with his running ability. But I get what you're saying.
So for me, when the question is the best quarterback,
right.
That's where I come in and challenge all of it.
So in other words, is he accurate? Can he make reads? Is he accurate? Right? And does he have arm strength? Check. I just said most accurate passer in the history of football, age 21. Here he is, age 22. Same thing, age 22. Is it going to be the same thing, age 23? If it's by the time he's 28, then he's the most accurate passer of all time. Look, the hoodwink era is over. There was an era up until now where really, and we know what it is. Of course, it's racial. It's necessarily like elephant in the room no one wants to talk about.
No, Max Kellerman, this is you, Marks Kellerman, trying to pander for a lot of the wokey woke constituency to invite you to another barbecue or to another cookout. Let me say this very quickly. As of right now, the so-called black quarterback is being welcomed into the NFL. So-called black quarterbacks have been given many chances to succeed. Now, are there opportunities as diverse as the so-called Caucasian quarterback? Meaning what? Will you have a black quarterback who's allowed to be a backup? That really is the last litmus test when it comes to fairness, quote-unquote fairness in the NFL, when it comes to the so-called black man's opportunities to play quarterback. That's really the last horizon that the so-called black man has to cross. But when it comes to the racial issue, I just believe that Lamar Jackson was a player who was doubted coming out of college because he played in a wide open system in college. He really did not want to perform too much for the NFL scouts, which to a degree I understand because he knew that they were trying to transfer him over to wide receiver. He also decided that he was going to have his mother as his manager. And let me say this, because I did a video about this right before the season 2 years ago when he first became a player in the NFL. I have to give his mother a lot of credit for how she's raised him because the way that he carries himself is not like the average mama's boy. He handles his business. He approaches things from a very pragmatic perspective. So I have to give him credit and her a lot of credit for him having that mentality and that mind. But just getting back to the point. Right now, it's not so much about whether or not you're a so-called black quarterback or a so-called white quarterback. You're going to get an opportunity. Now, if you're a so-called black quarterback coming out of college, your draft stock might drop a little bit more than the average high-profile Caucasian college quarterback, sure. Because there's no reason why Deshaun Watson, who was able to lead the Clemson Tigers to 2 straight national championship appearances, should have dropped that low in the draft. Pat Mahomes also dropped exceedingly low. So we know those things already. Those are definitely components. But when it comes to Lamar Jackson, they're going to try to create this image of him as the new paradigm for NFL quarterbacks. No, he's just a comet. You're not going to get too many guys coming to the NFL that run a 4.28 40, can throw the football 60 yards and do the things that he can do. He's different and special in the same way that Dan Marino or Aaron Rodgers are different and special. Yes, we can call them the standard if you want to, but they're really more an outlier. That to me is what Lamar Jackson is. He's an outlier. He's never going to be the standard for an NFL quarterback.
Black guys can't play quarterback. Know why? Because A lot of them are fast, seem to be the idea. Wait, so an extra dimension to your game?
It was
That's no
Sean.
good?
It was
Like,
Sean.
I mean,
No doubt.
right. I mean, I went for white quarterbacks too, I suppose. Oh, he's too, like, but Steve Young ran and other guys ran. That era is over. If you can do extra
top five
things,
best QBRs
that's
are all
good for you.
African-American
Right,
quarterbacks.
the top 5 QBR, all African-American quarterbacks. And
Well, the so-called black quarterback has definitely taken over the NFL, particularly this season. There's no doubt about that.
I hear a lot now with Lamar Jackson because people want to fight against stereotype. He works really hard. See, we're not saying he's just physically talented. He works hard. Yeah, no kidding, he works hard. You can't be that good without working hard.
Where there have been a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL who are highly touted who did not work hard. Look at Jamarcus Russell. So not everyone who gets into the NFL works that hard. So give the brother credit for working hard. The way in which he improved so drastically from his rookie season to this season, he certainly has put in the work.
He is. Let's focus on what quarterbacks do. Obviously, he's the fastest guy on the field. What does a quarterback have to do? Number 1, lead. He's a leader. Number 2, read defenses. He's very good at that. Number 3, requisite arm strength. He has a good strong arm. Number 4, accuracy down the field. He does that. And finally, a head coach with the guts to say, that guy can do all these things. I'm not going to try to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Okay.
I'm going to build an offense around him.
I understand you're both saying that he's the best.
I tell you what, that head coach for the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh, he needs to consider giving half of his contract to Lamar Jackson, because Lamar has extended John Harbaugh's tenure with the Baltimore Ravens by at least 5, maybe even 10 years, just because of the proficiency and the excellency of his play.
Stephen A., if he isn't, who do you think is? Who is
Well,
the
I
best
think
quarterback?
Russell Wilson is still a better quarterback.
Legit argument
than him.
there.
I think
Yeah,
Russell Wilson is still
I'll
a
take
better
Lamar, but
quarterback.
I hear you.
And then you can look at Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than him.
I would say that Patrick Mahomes is better than Lamar. Russell, I'm not quite sure. I'll say this. Russell knows how to escape the pocket and still keep looking downfield. Lamar, when he breaks the pocket, he's more just looking to run. So that's something that he has to work on.
Again, you're not taking away anything from the greatness. You could talk about that all you want to in terms of the black quarterback. But long before you came on this show, we've lamented the state of affairs with the black quarterback. And
Well, that's part of the problem. A bit too much lamentation. We already know that the so-called black athlete is dominant. So it's really just about being taken seriously. And in order for you to be taken seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. So that's where Lamar deserves the credit, in that he was not going to allow any of the NFL scouts to try to force him into being a wide receiver. He said, I'm a quarterback. That's what I'm going to be. And I'm going to show and prove that. So he didn't cry. He didn't self-victimize. He didn't try to make everyone feel sorry for him. He gave himself the best chance to succeed, and he accomplished his mission.
the way, Warren Moon decades ago debunked that theory.
Right.
Because what Warren Moon did was take your very critique. He didn't alter the criteria for a quarterback. What he did was he took your criteria and threw it in the garbage, because as a black quarterback, he went out there and did what those great quarterbacks were doing.
So Lamar's doing
no. What I'm saying is, you add the dimension. That's a bit different. We applaud it. We welcome
Marcus,
it.
you get the
But
last word here.
debunking it, Warren Moon did that.
Yeah, I think it's just time for us to embrace the fact that this is being done a different way. And then when you think about going forward in the future, there ain't a lot of Lamar Jacksons, right? We saw this trend in the NFL where people wanted to hire coaches to develop their quarterbacks. The problem that I've had with the Lamar Jackson criticism, I saw Lamar Jackson at Louisville carve people up. Was he the greatest? No, he wasn't. He
got a lot more accurate in the pros. Yeah.
Was he the great? But the ability to do it. These were some of the same perceptions. And it's funny you mentioned black quarterback. Some of these same perceptions was of Dak Prescott
we gotta go,
as
guys.
well.
Well, Dak Prescott is a different animal. Dak Prescott, I remember his last year at Mississippi State, I believe. And through like the first 6 or 7 games, he was considered the front runner for the Heisman. So Dak Prescott did not just come out of nowhere. But to compare Dak Prescott to Lamar Jackson, those are two totally different animals. What they both have in common is that they do not seek pity. They don't seek any type of victimization persona. They just go out there and do their damn job and dominate.
continue to get better. They have the ability.
We gotta go. Just keep in mind that before RG3 nearly had his leg amputated by a Lodi Nada, we were saying the same thing about him because
agreed.
Out of Bailey, he could really fling that football, showing out. He was going to be Rookie of the Year in the nation's capital. Then the leg injury compromised.
You got to pocket pass.
All right. So Max says Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL. Stephen A says not yet. He is the MVP, but Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, still in that conversation.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. So for you brothers who've been asking me about Lamar Jackson, that is my answer. I think that right now he is a comet. The thing about comets is that at one point you see them, at the next point you don't. They flash across the sky. So will Lamar Jackson be a phenomenon that stays the course and is going to be a constant in the heavens or in the sky? We'll see. I hope that he is. I've just happened to see this story many times in the past. And playing in that style, they tend to not last very long playing in that same style because eventually you get caught. So I think that is when we're going to see how great a player, an overall football player, Lamar Jackson really is once he gets compromised. But anyway, peace.